Chapter 2, Part 2, A Shattered Dream. I don't plan on becoming a hero, Vivi said. Anyone else in our village is more qualified to wield spirits. I wish to offer my skills in another profession. Please take a look at this. From the hidden scabbard beneath her raincoat, Vivi pulled out her three-runed rune sword. She lay it horizontally on her hands and showcased it to Serena. Serena frowned. A rune sword. Yes, it's my creation. I'm a runesmith of 15 years, Vivi said. Her heart raced, words heavy. She had planned to do this for a long time. Once she finally crafted a three-runed sword, Vivi knew her skills were good enough to make herself useful to the hunters. I know runesmithing isn't as popular as it used to be. The traditional outside-carved rune swords were surpassed by spirit blades long ago. However, my grandpa and I have made a revelation. Serena didn't look all too happy, but the look indicated Vivi could continue. Inside carved rune swords, Vivi said. Our rune swords use a new method that utilizes nearly 100% of a wielder's ether. The veins of our rune swords are not carved with lines on the surface of the sword. Instead, the veins are inside the sword. The new method ensures that close to 100% of a wielder's ether goes to strengthening the metal. The method is far more efficient than the ancient dwarves' technique. I am certain my three-runed sword will rival the power of spirit blades. Serena's spirit fluttered around the sword, staring at the circular runes on the surface sword. Serena herself offered a disgruntled scowl. You seek employment, then? She asked. A useless hope. Runesmithing is a dead profession. A revelation or two will not bring the profession out from its grave. Nobody will pay a fraction for your work. If you were the best runesmith in the world, perhaps a history freak would keep you around as a novelty. But to earn 100,000 ether in 11 months simply is not going to happen. I am sorry, but you have wasted your time. I am looking to survive, Vivi said, but I don't ask you for 100,000 ether. I have just one request. Try my sword, please. Take a practice swing. Serena looked as if she had been insulted. Get out of here, girl. You are dismissed. Vivi stood tall. Please, I just need 5 seconds of your time. Try filling the sword with ether. You won't be disappointed. Serena had a dismissive look on her face. You heard me. Vivi's throat felt heavy. What was wrong with this woman? Serena wouldn't even try the sword out. I'm also an alchemist, and I'm trained in the arts, Vivi blurted out. She had spent a year's worth of free time doodling and mixing ingredients. Hoping she miraculously gained skills in a field that could possibly lead her to a life outside debt. On top of runesmithing, I can brew Tier 3 potions, and I can show you my sketchbook if. Irrelevant, Serena said. Tier 3 potions sell for less than their cost. An alchemist must brew, at minimum, Tier 4 potions in their sleep if they wish to earn enough to live. Art will bring you even less. You are dismissed, child. Get out of my sight before your bad luck spreads. Vivi gulped away the awful feeling in her throat. She had expected negotiations to go this way. Yet this was the last chance she had. If the hunters didn't want her, who would? The hunters were the only people with enough ether to save her life. Please, she pleaded. I'm eager to learn any skill you teach. If you employ me, I will remain loyal for life. I will do anything you ask. All I ask is for you to try my sword. If you don't like it, I'll never come back. Serena sighed. Then she performed something that made Vivi freeze on the spot. The hunter called her powers. The spirit flew as a wisp into Serena's chest. Her body lit up with the glow of ether. A bright blue translucent sword formed in her hand. Her spirit materialized into a sharp blade. With one effortless swipe, Serena cut Vivi's rune sword in half. The halves fell to the ground with clanks that stopped Vivi's heart. You practice an outdated craft, dear, Serena said, as if the result was only inevitable. Spirit blades are far superior to any smith blade. Snapping your sword was laughably easy. Of course it snapped. It wasn't imbued with ether. Vivi cried in her thoughts but was too shocked to speak out loud. What had just happened? Nobles spend large sums for the privilege of education, Serena said. There is no teacher in the world that will pay 100,000 ether for an apprentice. I am sorry, but you are useless." Vivi stood frozen, dumbfounded. She knew this was her last chance. If she couldn't convince the hunters of her worth now, how would she ever earn 100,000 ether? The hunters wouldn't come back in another year. By then, she'd already be dead. "You are dismissed, child," Serena repeated. Her words were emphasized with a deathly scowl. Vivi sniffled back her tears. She had nothing else to argue with. She picked up the snapped pieces of her sword, then rushed out of Serena's sight, her eyes facing the ground. Everyone was looking at her. Some snickered, though most were too shocked to say anything. The boys acted like proper men while wearing their fancy jackets and undershirts. Their usual barrage of insults would flow freely once the examiners were out of town. Vivi slumped down by a column at the quiet corner of the cloister. The examinations continued in the central garden underneath a rain canopy. She buried her face in her knees, failing to keep her tears in. She wanted to run home and crawl in a hole, yet how would she explain this to Grandpa? The sword she had spent weeks crafting was snapped in half. Would Grandpa continue to house her, knowing she would die within a year? He would, Vivi knew. Grandpa had always supported her, having raised Vivi after her real mother, whoever she was, abandoned her baby in a ditch. Vivi had been nameless and indebted when Grandpa found her. Neither red flag seemed to faze Grandpa. Ever since then, Grandpa was seen as mad by the rest of the village. He became an outlier of society, just like Vivi. His obsession with runesmithing certainly bordered insanity. Perhaps it was the same madness that made him adopt a baby 100,000 ether in debt. The profession barely provided food to the table with a dozen hours of work every day, let alone covering Vivi's debt. Maybe if I ran from home to practice alchemy, Vivi thought, I'd have enough time to learn a profession that earned money. Maybe if I learned to brew tier 4 potions, but Serena had said her alchemy wasn't needed. Who would pay 100,000 ether for a mediocre alchemist? "Vivian Runeblist, huh?" a mocking voice said from ahead. "We almost forgot how ridiculous your real name is." Vivi raised her head to find 4 boys standing over her. The one who spoke was Freen, a tall boy who spent most of his hours drinking stolen booze and causing trouble. Beside him stood Biro, Alo, and Jude. Their insults weren't anything out of the ordinary. Vivi looked away. Any other day, she would have had an insult prepared for this bunch. Yet, today she couldn't bring herself to fight back. She wished to run off and never speak to anyone again. Vivi's lack of reaction seemed to piss off the boys. "HMPH," Barreau said. "Wasteful as usual. You're as fragile as your sword, Vive. Your lucky Ithar will be reaping you out of here in a year. The village will finally hold a celebration in your name." "I'll buy that sword off of you for a couple ether," Friend said with a grin. "I'd be glad to help out an unfortunate family business. Orphan business, should I say." "No, that's too much," Biro said. "A fraction is what we'll offer, 1/10 of an ether." "It's not for sale," Vivi muttered. "Oh, is that how it is?" Biro grinned and knelt down and grabbed the hilt side of the snapped sword. "How kind of you. I'll be taking it for free then." Grandpa will want to melt that for the metals, Vivi thought. She stayed slumped as Biro awaited a reaction. Biro could have the sword for now. She'd only embarrass herself fighting 4 boys for it. She would simply have to retrieve the sword later from whichever ditch Biro threw it in. Behind the boys, utter silence paused whatever insult Biro was about to throw. Serena was examining Tara Fellwater. The woman's auburn hair was tied in a flower-adorned bun, face covered in makeup, wearing a real sword maiden's dress. Tara was the chief's daughter, the only girl in the village with a real surname, named after the village itself, and blessed by Ithar. The group of boys forgot Vivi, starring as Serena's spirit fluttered around Tara's perfect body. Every boy Vivi knew had a crush on Tara, though their chances of courting her were as low as defeating her with the sword. Chief Fellwater intended for his daughter to become an ether hunter. Tara had no backup profession. Her future relied solely on being chosen by a spirit. With the chief's subsidies and training, the dream was almost inevitable. After the examination, Serena offered a satisfied smile. She spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Tara Fellwater, you are the finest candidate I have seen in 2 years. 2350 ether, a remarkable sum with the skills to add. Does anyone in this village carry better prospects?" The village stayed silent. Serena nodded. "In that case, we will skip the rest of the examinations. Tara Fellwater, you are chosen." The village cheered and clapped. Some were half-hearted and filled with jealousy, but everyone clapped. Everyone but Vivi, who hid slumped behind the boys. "I'm dead," she thought. "The curse will eat me alive." Chapter complete. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe for more light novel adventures. Part 3 is ready. Let's dive right in.